Hello, my dear students, and a very warm welcome back. I know, the exams are just around the corner and the tension is building up. But don't you worry one bit. We're going to tackle this chapter together, and I promise we'll make it super simple. And hey, if you find this useful, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button, share it with your friends, and please, let me know in the comments which chapter you want me to explain next. All right, let's jump right in. You see, for centuries and centuries, Bacho, the forest, wasn't just a bunch of trees. Oh no. For the people who actually lived there, it was literally everything. Think of it like a giant free supermarket. It gave them everything they needed to live a happy, healthy, and complete life. Just imagine their day-to-day life, okay? They needed wood for their cooking fire. The forest gave it. Grass for their cattle. The forest provided. They used strong bamboo to build fences and to make baskets. And the mawa flower, wow! It was not only food, but they even made drinks from it for celebrations. Tenda leaves for making beaties, countless herbs for medicine, and of course, all the tasty fruits and tubers. Their entire world was connected to the forest. But this beautiful, balanced world, well, it was about to get completely turned on its head. And why? Because the British had arrived in India, and when they looked at these amazing forests, they didn't see a home. They saw a resource that they needed badly. So this is the main point. Listen closely. The British, or the Angres as we called them, had two enormous demands. First, they needed really strong, solid wood to build ships for their Royal Navy, which was the most powerful in the world. And second, they needed just a mind-boggling amount of wood to lay down their new railway tracks all across India. So what was the big rush? Well, back in their own country, in England, the great oak forests they used for building ships were disappearing. They were running out of trees, and no oak meant no strong ships. So they looked towards India. And what did they see? These huge, dense forests that seemed endless. To them, it was like an unlimited supply of timber, just waiting to be cut down. And then came the railways. Now, just try to get your head around this number. For just one single mile of railway track, they needed somewhere between 1,760 and 2,000 thick wooden planks, called sleepers. Now imagine them building thousands and thousands of miles of track. The number of trees that were cut down, it was in the lakhs and lakhs. It was deforestation on a scale that had never been seen before. And here's the really sad part, the irony of it all. Who did the British hire to cut down these forests? The local Adivasi people themselves, the very people whose ancestors had protected these forests for generations. They were paid a few rupees to cut trees for railway sleepers, but under the new British laws, they weren't even allowed to take a single piece of wood to repair their own homes. Can you imagine that? So, facing this huge need for wood, the British came up with what they called a solution. They decided they would manage the forests with a whole new set of rules and laws. But this so-called solution created huge, heartbreaking problems for the people who had called these forests home forever. And man they brought in to do this job was a German expert. His name was Dietrich Brandis. Now remember this name, Bacho, it's very important. He was made the first ever Inspector General of Forests in India, and he brought in a new system called scientific forestry. But, what was scientific for the British was actually a disaster for the villagers. And this right here, this is the real reason for the entire conflict. It wasn't just a small disagreement. It was two completely opposite ways of looking at the world. For the British, a good forest was basically a timber factory. They wanted only tall, straight trees like teak and saul, planted in neat rows, perfect for building ships and railways. But for the villagers, a good forest was a rich jungle, full of different types of trees that gave them everything they needed: fuel, food, fodder, medicine, the whole shebang. One side saw wood for profit, the other saw a world for living. And to make their idea the law, they passed the Forest Act of 1878. What did this act do? It basically divided all the forests into three neat categories. The best and densest forests were called reserved, no entry for villagers. Then you had protected forests, where people could go, but with lots of rules. And finally, the smallest, most useless parts were left as village forest for the people. The result was absolutely devastating. Overnight, everyday life became illegal. The things people had done for thousands of years were suddenly crimes. If you cut wood to cook your dinner, you were a thief. If your cattle wandered into the forest to graze, that was a crime. collecting fruits, hunting a small animal for food, all of it could get you arrested and punished. Okay, pens down, eyes here, but true. This is a classic exam question, so listen up very, very carefully. Why were the British so against shifting cultivation, which is also called June cultivation? Why did they ban it? Here's your answer in 3 simple, easy-to-remember points. Number 1, this kind of farming didn't grow the tall, straight timber that the British wanted for their railways. Number 2, they were terrified that the small fires used to clear land could spread and destroy their precious, valuable trees. And number 3, it was almost impossible to calculate and collect taxes from people who are moving their farms every couple of years. So it was just easier for them to ban it completely. But do you think the people of the forest just sat quietly and accepted all these new laws? Not a chance. Their anger, their pain, it all built up and exploded into one of the most important stories of resistance in our history, the Bastar Rebellion. This massive rebellion happened in the year 1910 in the Bastar region. If you look at a map today, it's in the southern part of Chhattisgarh. It was a huge movement led by the Adivasi communities there, people like the Durwas, the Bratras, and the Halbas, who decided they had had enough of these unfair forest laws. And the way they organized this rebellion was just amazing. It's like something from a movie. Remember, there was no internet, no WhatsApp back then. So they passed secret messages from village to village using symbols. A branch from a mango tree, a small lump of earth, a handful of chilies, an arrow. These weren't random items. They were secret codes inviting everyone to join the rebellion under brave leaders like Gunda Dur. And the rebellion spread like wildfire. The people attacked every single thing that stood for British rule and oppression. They looted the bazaars that were run by unfair traders. They burned the houses of officials who enforced these harsh laws. And they targeted schools and police stations. These were the symbols of a foreign power that had taken away their homes and their way of life. In the end, of course, the British sent their army and crushed the rebellion with force. But, and this is the most important part you must remember, the people's struggle was not a failure. In fact, they won a huge victory. The British government was so shaken that they were forced to stop their forest reservation work, and get this, they had to reduce the area of reserved forests by almost 50%. Now, it's really important for you to understand that this kind of thing wasn't just happening in India. It was a pattern that repeated itself wherever colonial powers went. To see this clearly, let's take a quick trip to another place, the island of Java in what is now Indonesia. In Java, the colonial rulers were the Dutch, but just look at how similar the story is. The Dutch also wanted strong teak wood for their ships. They also had a special community of expert forest cutters, called the Kalongs. They also brought in their own version of scientific forestry, and they even started a cruel system where villagers were forced to work for free cutting down trees. It's almost the exact same playbook. But just like in India, the people in Java also fought back. A man named Surantiko Samin started a really powerful movement, and his core argument was so simple yet so brilliant. He basically said, the government cannot own the forest because the government did not create the wind, the water, the earth, or the wood. It was a fundamental challenge to the whole idea of colonial ownership. So after going through this whole story, what's the big lesson? What's the main takeaway for your exams and for life? It's this. Colonialism completely changed what a forest meant. What was once a home, a provider, a source of life for local communities was turned into a commercial factory for the state to make money from. And this created a huge conflict between the people of the forest and the government, a conflict over who has the right to these resources. And you know what? In many parts of India and the world, that same conflict is still going on today. And that's a wrap on this chapter. I really hope this quick revision helps you feel more confident for your exams. Just study well, stay positive, and I know you are going to do great. All the very, very best, my dear students. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. Bye for now.